One of the things I know about speeches is you got to have a great opening and a great close, and the key to a great speech is to keep the two of those as close together as humanly possible, which we're going to do right now. Now, in listening to the other speakers, you get a lot of good information about what's happening out there, and I have the luxury of spending 3 hours a day talking to people and getting their feedback on what's going on out there. There's a hell of a lot of frustration, there's a hell of a lot of anger, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of solution-type conversations taking place. Everybody wants to bitch. Can I say that? Yeah? Mostly libertarians, right? Okay. Are there any kids here? All right, fine. Now we can have a different kind of show. People just seem to want to bitch about it. It's the perpetuation of the problem. But the problem is the status quo. That's our problem. We have capitalism under Bush. We have socialism under Obama. People who come along with solutions, who I'm not supposed to talk about, I guess specifically mention people's names here, that get overlooked by the status quo, are made out to look like Jack Lemmon in the China Syndrome, like the craziest people in the room. But the problem is the people who know, the people who have the ideas, the people who have the solutions are the ones that are blocked by the hard left and the hard right, which exploits the moderate middle, which is what most of America is to me. If you take a pendulum and you put it over the country and you swing that pendulum, it spends the least amount of time far right, spends the least amount of time far left, and the most amount of time going across the middle. We share more with each other than most would like to admit. We have more in common with each other than most would like to admit. Poverty isn't a black or white issue. Food stamps isn't a black or white issue. It's a people issue. We have people problems, but the problem is the people that we have supposedly solving those problems are the very same people that gave us the problems to begin with, the perpetuation of the status quo. That's what we're facing. Now, there's a lot of movements out there. People want to say, I'm a part of this, I'm a part of this, I belong to this, sign me up with here, I wear the R, I wear the D, I wear the I wear this. The only party I really want to be a part of is the all-night party. That's really the party that I want to hang with, because I don't know what's going to happen, but pretty much rest assured the next morning there's going to be some good stories. But when we look at how we've carved up the country, it's the perpetuation of the stereotypes. I would like to see in my business or in television, when someone comes on, don't put a D or an R. Make the people listen to what the person has to say. Because how many times does someone dismiss what a Democrat says if they're a Republican, or a Republican dismiss what is said on the other side, simply because they see the designation? I'll give you an example. My vertically challenged, liberal, Irish, Catholic, East Coast mom, Eleanor, who thinks she's Jewish, because we lived across the street from the Eichenholz family in Brooklyn, New York. We were in a car in Boston at a family reunion, and I turned on the radio, and the opening of the show played out, and the host came on, and he started telling some quippy, nonsensical thing, and she's in the back seat laughing, 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 and he went on, and she's laughing, 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 and she's like, who is that? Who is that? I go, it's Rush Limbaugh. And she goes, oh, turn it off, I hate him. Because that's what she'd been told by her liberal, Irish, Catholic, East Coast Democrat friends, that Rush Limbaugh is an asshole, which he is. But I've came to that conclusion myself, not because someone told me to come to that conclusion. But the solutions to the problem aren't going to be because you label yourself a Democrat or a Republican, or because you sign up for some movement or cause or embrace some agenda. I'm not waiting for anybody. That's my solution to the problem. I know that the solutions to the problem are simple. For example, illegal immigration. What's the simplest way to stop illegals from getting hired? Fine the employers. $50,000 per illegal you hire. That message is going to get around pretty quick. You don't need big top-down government amnesty programs. You don't need that. You just say, look, here's the way we're going to do it. You hire someone illegally, 50 grand, that employer is going to go, wow, that sucked. And he's going to tell another employer, and that employer is going to tell the other employer. And what happens? Word gets around, don't do that. Word gets around in the illegal alien community, we're not going to get hired. Then they come to find out we're not going to teach them in English in school, and we're not going to let you crowd the hospitals. And they're going to self-deport. Because in my mind, if you're not here legally as a citizen of this country, or here legally on a visa that allows you to stay here and work and be here legally, you get nothing. You get nothing. You have human rights. You don't have constitutional rights in a country that you broke the laws to get here, or you got here legally and you stayed here long after you were supposed to be here. The solutions are simple. We don't need a $5 billion fence. They'll go over, they'll go under, they'll go around. But if there's nothing for them here, and I know why they're here. I used to drive all over Baja, Mexico. Mulahey, Loreto, La Paz, Bahia de Los Angeles. I used to drive all over. Beautiful country, great people. I know why they're here. I'd probably be here too. I just don't like the fact that they're here telling us what we have to do now that they are here. It's our country. Why are we wasting time teaching kids in Spanglish and English as a second language? My cousin Neil, by the way, I'm adopted, which is the only reason I tend to be more conservative/libertarian than my East Coast Irish Catholic family, because I do think it's nature versus nurture. But he went to France as an exchange student. We went to Xavier High School in Manhattan, the old boys military Jesuit penal colony. And he was taking French. I took Latin. Why? I don't know. But I did. He took French. He went to France. He called me up after about a week and he said, I'm lost. I have no idea what's going on. I'm clueless. I'm falling behind. I don't get it. But he was forced to immerse into French. And when he thought he had the language, he realized that he didn't really have it to the degree he thought he had over there. But when he came back here, he crushed everybody else in advanced French because he immersed himself in the culture, forced himself to learn the language. And for us to sit here and say that a Hispanic kid or a black kid isn't smart enough to be as smart as a white kid, that's ridiculous. Kids are sponges. They're dry sponges. You put them in an intellectual pool, they're going to suck it up. But why don't we do things that make sense? Because the system benefits from people being dependent on government. Right now, we got 49% of the people in this country don't pay federal income tax. Now, when you rob from Peter to pay Paul, you can always guarantee on account of Paul, he's going to vote for you. The vote for 2012 is for Obama to buy votes. The vote for 2012 is for the Republicans to get their gangster buddies on Wall Street bailed out by Ben Bernanke and the crooked Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner. That's the game that's being played right now. Wall Street wins, Obama wins, you carve up the spoils, but who loses? We lose as a nation. As far as how we go forward, there is no political messiah. No one's going to come down off the political mountaintop and say, here's the staff, there's the sea, I part the waters, we walk across. Doesn't happen. The changes that happen in this country happen with you. I'm a member of the opt-out revolution. My job is to minimize government's impact on my life. Fair tax? Sure. Free and fair trade? Yes. Secure borders? Obviously. Better education standards? Got it. Is it happening? No. Is it going to happen? Hopefully one day. But what are we going to do? Wait for that day? Why not today? You're the solution. If you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your own. You can take care of your community. You can take care of your city. You can take care of your state. And sooner or later, the foundational fixes will percolate their way up to the system so that these screwballs in Washington, D.C., whose only job is to get reelected and to fund the status quo, will finally get the message. And when does their irresponsibility stop being my responsibility? My responsibility is to make sure that I'm responsible, that I'm doing what I can do. I'm going to minimize government's input on my life. It's a movement about personal responsibility, self-determination, American exceptionalism, the rule of law. But we've become so dependent upon this government that's supposedly going to provide for us and make our lives better. It hasn't. We've got debts and deficits as far as the eye can see. We've got generational bankruptcy. Maybe for the first time in history, no one is going to turn over the campground to the next generation in nicer condition than they got it. How is that possible? It shouldn't be, but that's what we got. But how does it continue? It continues because hard left, hard right. Fox, MSNBC. Talking points. People parroting sound bites without taking the time to really understand what it's all about. And as long as they can keep that game going, it becomes the perpetual game of politics. The road to 2012. the countdown to 2014, 2016, the most important election of our time. They make money doing that. But we don't get around to seeing problems get solved. When I saw the diss that Ron Paul got from Fox, and I hate Fox. I can't stand the organization. Bunch of focus group phonies. When I saw the diss that Ron Paul got, I was like, you got to be kidding me. The guy who finished 0.9 of 1 percentage point away from beating Michelle Bachmann doesn't even get a mention on Fox News, which is a totally Republican cheerleading organization. They are not fair and balanced. I don't care what you do with your billion-dollar satellites and your million-dollar buildings and your million-dollar anchors. Just don't lie to me. You're a cheerleader for the Republican Party, as MSNBC is a cheerleader for the Democrat Party, and CNN, they're not sure what they are. That's why nobody's watching. Same thing with Anderson Cooper's daytime show. And I'm surprised nobody's tuning into that, because who doesn't want to see Anderson Cooper get a spray tan with Snooki? Which was the first show I caught of his. And I went, really? And of course, selfishly, I think, and I don't have a show? I'll get a spray tan with Snooki. But the solutions are really very simplistic if we take the time to understand that the problems are people waiting for other people to solve the problems. That's the problem. We're the solutions. I'm not waiting for them. I'm getting started today. Everybody's looking at the election of 2012. If we can just get a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled White House, then what? What are you going to do with it? You're going to do what you did with George Bush, double the national debt from $5 to $10 trillion. It took us 191 years to get the first $1 trillion from George Washington to Ronald Reagan. But where were the Republicans in Fox News when George Bush was running up the national debt to the tune of $5 trillion? Where were they? Now all of a sudden they're criticizing Obama's spending. Obama just decided to go through the big capitalist drive-through and supersize. That's all he's doing. Bush set the precedent. Where were they then when deficits were a problem? I had Congressman Tom Price, Republican from Georgia, on my program, talking about how we have to defund Planned Parenthood. Okay, why? Well, you know, they use the money for abortion. Okay, we got to do that now? Right now. He said, well, you know, I said, they just got bad when? When Obama became the president, that's when they got bad? He said, no, they've been bad for a long time. I mean, like when you guys had the White House and the House and the Senate, so why didn't you defund Planned Parenthood then? He said, we should have. I go, that's your answer? He said, that's my answer. Really? Why didn't you address spending when you guys were spending out of control? He says, well, we lost the trust of the American people. We've been in the political wilderness. We learned our lesson, and now it's time to get back and do what? Do what? Do what? $5 trillion. You know, even with Trump, who I think's a tool, but if you see me later at the cocktail party, ask me the Marla Maples story. Donald Trump put up a building in Las Vegas where I live, and it's nice to come to Reno and stay in a casino. Thank you. Wow. Got out of Rahway, went to Rikers Island. Yay. Trump put a building up in Las Vegas, and it's virtually empty. And I called it Trump's last erection in Las Vegas. He thought it was funny, too. But at least the building's there. At least the building's there. What have we gotten for all of this debt?